Um, so what's up, Mr. Michael Carruth, or how are you?
I'm good as I can be. I've had to grow on a beard, did you know that? So that's my first time in 52 years that I'm old I've ever had a beard. I just got increasingly lazy, I suppose, over the last couple of weeks, like all of us, because it's been crazy, hasn't it? It's just been mad. So yeah, just my wife's hardly talking to me, so it's even better now. So I think I keep the beard.
Yeah, I was going to ask you going to keep it, so I think you've answered that one.
So she'll probably do it one night when I'm asleep and cut it off. So that's it. So, but listen again. I went to the golf club last week, and about 10 of the lads came in with beards who never had beards in their lives. So they're thinking the same thing as me, I think. So
yeah, I think everybody's had a go. Yeah, I think everybody's had a go at growing that beard, though, hasn't it? It's kind of the thing.
Well, it's a thing I never done. So just because I was always in military, man. I was in the army for 10 years in my life, and I always kind of kept that 2 or 3 day was the most I'd ever not shave. You know what I mean? So I kind of don't have to worry about that there anymore. But yeah, I was always kind of disciplined that I always shaved once or twice a week. You know what I mean? And so I just said to myself, I'm not going to shave for a few days and see what this looks like. You know what I mean? And so my wife absolutely hates it. So she said, get rid of it. So I'll just annoy her for the next week or two.
So just actually before we hit record there, you were talking about like the season for the schoolboys and the schoolgirls and that. Like, what do you reckon that's going to happen? Like, how would it usually work in terms of like how would it be spread out, and how is it going to be a struggle to kind of get all that to fit in by the end of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very hard because firstly, we're only being told that possibly we're going to get back in August the 10th is the first training sessions. We're hoping it's going to be earlier than that. But, if you're only going into training sessions in August, the 10th, really you need 6 weeks of preparation for any boxer of any age, to start getting himself back into box fitness. You know what I mean? So you can be fit, but there's boxing fitness, and it's a total different ballgame. You have to be sharp. You have to start accumulating lots of rounds of sparring and pad work and things like that. Are we going to be allowed to do that in the 6 weeks of training? So it's going to be so hard for all of our boxers because they're not just the ones in my boxing club, but throughout the whole country. I say they're all going stir crazy that they can't go back to their club and do a bit of training. Now, a lot of them have been very disciplined and gone and doing their runs and doing their shadow boxing and doing their car but when you get back to the club, the only real difference is going to be is you probably can do some skipping, you probably can hit some punch bags and do some shadow boxing in a bigger area, but we're not allowed to do sparring work with them. So it's going to be hard how we're going to fit this. Like with our national championships for schoolboys and schoolgirls is a huge entry, and I can't see it happening this year. I think 2020 is just going to have to be wiped off the map basically and say, no, we'll start back 2021. Our season really kicks in from January, February, because that's when we have our County Dublin Championships on. People would have their Leinsters, their Munsters, their Ulsters and their Connachts in around the same time. And then a couple of weeks later, then we all meet up in around Easter time to fight the national championships, which is schoolboy and schoolgirls. And that's going from schoolboy 1 to U2. So that's from 11-year-old up to 16-year-old. So obviously they're off school now. That's a good part of it because they're not going to go back into schools now. But I just can't see that the boxing calendar being changed that much. I think we just have to scrap it. No, I really do because I can't see them putting back in. Then these kids who win these national championships, there's always a reward of going to a European championship. Is it in Spain, is it in Russia, is it anywhere else? Do you really want to send your child out somewhere out there, maybe with a chance that they'll catch this corona thing, So it's, it's kind of, I think we have to, common sense has to prevail and we have to just probably wipe out 2020.
Yeah. And like you said, is the plan to still have those European championships this year? Is that has it been cancelled on that terms, on that level?
Well, nothing has come out from IEBA at the moment, but any country in the world, with their own team, Irish team, English team, would you really want to put your child, your boxer into that kind of danger by putting them into a highly, let's say, for instance, it was in Spain this year. I don't know when the European Championships are for schoolboys and schoolgirls, but Spain has been decimated with this coronavirus as Italy, So it's going to be very unlikely. And now they're saying any country you go to, you have to spend 14 days in quarantine, So it's anybody coming into Ireland, they have to find 2 weeks of saying where you are and what you're doing. So I just cannot see any championships going on. It's going to particularly harder for our Olympic boxers because, again, they were only just started trying to qualify, and literally the next night it was called. They were over in London. Young Aaron had qualified for the Olympics, and I think we had 3 going in the next day, and then they called the championship. It was called off, So, and we had a real good chance here with 3 of them qualifying, and I think Kelly Harrington was one of them. And but it is what it is, Safety has to prevail. So it's not just boxing; it's everything. But you can see, like, boxing is a contact sport. Saliva is going to swap, sweat is going to swap. So there's every chance of your opponent having this, he's going to give it to you. So it's one of those things we have to be very careful.
Yeah, it's the contact sports. I think definitely like boxing and any other combat sports or anything like that. They're always good. They're going to be the last ones to come back. They're going to be the most affected because you just can't social distance really.
Yeah, but the amazing thing about that is, are you telling me soccer is not a contact sport? Yeah, of course it is. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's the Premier League is going to start back next weekend. So are you telling me they're not going to put the tackles in what they normally put the tackle in, or drag your man by the hair, or you know what I'm saying? But it's again, it's the world we live in, and money talks and bullshit walks. The Premiership will pay for the testing for the players all the time, and where other sports won't be able to afford that. So it's one of those taboo questions again, But I'm looking forward to the Premiership being back as well, because I'm a Liverpool fan and I've been waiting a long time. So just 2 more wins and we've got it. So and shit, you Man United players up, because I noticed you're with that little look to the sky there. I say you're Man United, are you? So
I'd much rather to be heading into the pre-season and looking at some new signings at a tour in America or something than to be watching Liverpool win the league.
But the thing with it is as well, like, people have that, So it's an industry, that thing, obviously the Premier League. So it's Leeds have been waiting to come up for the last 20 years into the Premier League again, So when you look at the Championship as well, so it's not just Liverpool winning the title. It's who's going to get relegated and who's going to come up, which is a huge thing for them as well. So, but you'd like to think Liverpool will win it, because it's really, also 8 games left, and I think they only need 6 points, and that's without Man City dropping points. So they have to win every game, City. So, but I can't see that happening.
No, it's definitely going to be Liverpool's, but like, I don't think, like, I saw something a few weeks ago, is that the leagues that require that, and they need the big money, that are ran off the big television money, they're all the leagues that haven't been cancelled. All the leagues that don't rely on big television money were all called off. So I think that
yeah, it's crazy. It just is, and like, to be honest, it's you look at other sports, and I normally want to talk about my sport, which is obviously boxing, but it's hard for sports. It's hard for clubs to survive this as well. We've lost 2 boxing clubs already, have gone into liquidation because they can't afford it, because most of the clubs in this country would be solely relying on subs coming in from the kids. You know what I mean? And so I think it was Tullow and St. Teresa's in Bray have stopped trading because they can't afford it. They still have to pay their rent and their electricity bills and whatever else it is. But without money coming in, it's hard for them. So I would say, boxing, we want to get it back up and running soon, because a lot more clubs could be under severe pressure as well.
Yeah, and like that, then, like, as with a lot of these clubs, like, they offer a lot to the community. So then, like, to just go missing, then, like, where do those kids that were in the boxing club, what do they start? What do they go into? Do they go into do they start getting into trouble or what?
That's the first thing. Yeah, that's what you'd always think about, like that the loitering around with the wrong people, and you like to think that, you know, what boxing does bring to kids and to anybody, it brings discipline, and they have that with them as well then. So you'd like to think that they wouldn't be getting into trouble, and that they'd be just anxious to get back to their clubs. Unfortunately, that doesn't apply to everybody, so it's one of those taboo things. There's not enough, I suppose, money in Ireland to be looking after every boxing club or every GAA club or every rugby club or soccer club, so it's, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But when you look at other things like dance schools as well, they're the same. It's contact, so there's not allowed to do it, so it's going to be tough now in the next couple of months again for to get some kind of normality back.
Yeah, we just have to hope we get there fairly fast, I suppose, fairly soon. But taking a bit more onto yourself and your own kind of story in that, how did you get started in boxing? Well, how did the journey start?
My dad was a coach at Green Hills Boxing Club. I was born in Green Hills. I was born in the house my mother and father were living, myself and my two brothers. We were born on the 9th of July 1967 up in the top room in the house, and my father met my mother through boxing, because he used to hang around with these lads called the Humstons, and they were part of a boxing club called St. Francis Boxing Club in Usher Key. And my grandfather was the secretary or something like that. He was a grumpy old baldy old man like me, and he didn't like my dad. He didn't like my dad because my dad used to hang around with the brothers, and then my dad discovered that the brothers had a good looking sister, and that's how it kicked off. They started going out together, and they eventually got married and what have you. And we were born, as I said, 1967, and my dad was the coach of Green Hills Boxing Club then at that time. And it was like anything else. You just followed your dad and whatever you done. I'm cracking up. He never got me into golf quicker. You know what I mean? But boxing was the chosen thing, because my uncle Martin, my mother's brother, he was the first light middleweight champion of Ireland back in 1951. He won the elite championship, and so that was always kind of the slag as well, because when we got into the boxing, you're not as good as your Uncle Martin. You're not as good as your Uncle Martin. That's all you ever got, And I remember winning my first league, my first All Ireland championship. I came in, and the biggest champion thing you can win, it's the biggest in the world. It's an All Ireland title, And I said to my mum, as good as my Uncle Martin, and she says, no. She bloody absolutely flattened me, and my dad's even looking at her, what are you doing here, And he only ever won one title, this guy. One national title. I won my second, I won my third, I won my fourth, I won my fifth, I won whatever. And meltdown. I think I finished on 14 national titles. So I won a bronze medal at the World Championships, and I always come back with this question: am I as good as my Uncle Martin? And she'd go, no. And then I was coming down the steps from Barcelona with the Olympic gold medal. And I know I'm kind of fast forwarding, but she said to me, I said to her, am I as good as my Uncle Martin? And she says, you are now. And I said, Ma, no, I'm not. I said, he's as good as me. I said, it was a bit of crack, because it was something that pushed me all my life, So yeah, we started in Green Hills Boxing Club. I think we were around 7 years old. We started training. I had my first fight at 7 years old, a few months later, against a guy from Drimnagh Boxing Club, and I won it. And it just started from there. It really did. And I was kind of lucky as well, because Martin and William, my two triplet brothers, were there as well. So we didn't need company, but we obviously befriended people and, got to know people as well. And then we just turned into a force now. It just started from there. So it was one of those type of things. We were playing soccer, we were playing GAA, we were doing boxing. And then when it got to a stage in your life, and around 13 or 14 years old, you really have to make a decision which one you're going to do. And it was a no-brainer with me. I was winning all Ireland titles at that stage. And boxing was always going to be my choice.
Yeah, I would assume with two other brothers, all the same age, it was a sport madhouse.
Yeah, my brother Austin was boxing as well at the time as well, my older brother. So he was in the club as well. And then a few years later, Fergal, my younger brother, joined as well. So it was only about 4 of us ever time, because Austin went in and out boxing very quick, and then Fergal came in. So, you know, it was a good thing as well that in school as well, you picked on one of us, you had to fight the 3 of us, you know. So we didn't bring our boxing into it, but they knew what we could do with our hands, so we didn't get into too much trouble, you know. So if we got into a fight, somebody else started, it wasn't us, because we, as I said, boxing brings you a huge discipline in your life as well. So, and then, as I say, if they hit one of us, they nearly had to hit the 3 of us. You know what I mean? So we were kind of untouchable.
Yeah.
We got into trouble, but we got into trouble. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure. That doesn't everyone. Boys will be boys, I suppose, is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, so we just, you know, we had good mates as well, and you know, boxing was, you know, back in the day, it was, you know, it wasn't, I suppose, we get a great endorsement of boxing every year, every 4 years. It's called a little thing called the Olympic Games, you know, and we've been doing so well over the last couple of years. And the amount of people who probably wouldn't have took up boxing, only that they looked at either me on the television or Katie Taylor or Kennedy Egan or guys like that, and started to join boxing. So we're hoping that, you know, the next generation again, you know, is going to be even better. You know what I mean? And that's what you hope for.
Yeah. And so, like, then, well, when would you have started then boxing for Ireland? Would it have been the same as you mentioned before? Like, when you win the nationals, you would have got to go to European Championships. Would it have been the same, or?
No, it's not. No. Like when you're by 1, by 2, which is 11 or 12, you can be going to championships at that stage now, to Europeans and World Championships. I was, I think, 16 when I got first selected for boxing. I was youth boxing, and there was a youth championships in Romania in 1986, I think it was, and that was my real first trip abroad for Ireland. You know what I mean? And then we didn't do too good. We didn't win a medal, and we didn't win very hardly a fight. But I think there's about 5 or 6 of us on the team. But then it gives you a desire. I always remember looking at this guy, and it was a World Championships, and I think he was from Japan or somewhere in that region, you know. And I was looking at the size when he's like a little Hulk. Like, I want to see the definition of him. And I'm looking at him, and I said, "Gee, he could be my weight." Like, and all of a sudden, he was a stone lighter than me, you know. And I said, it was a real wake-up call to me. I said, because if you want to make it, I said, you're going to have to start getting yourself in better shape and what have you. And it was a real wake-up call at 16 when I started. And although I was winning everything in Ireland, I said, if I have to do it international, I'm going to have to up the grade again, you know. And that's what I did. I just started pushing myself to the limits, you know.
Yeah, we see that just in my own sport, like in Taekwondo, that the first time, you know, you get 14, 15 and you go to a European or World Championships, and it's kind of it's an eye opener. It's because you've only been exposed to competition in Ireland, and then you go to the biggest level and you see guys from other countries and what they're able to do, and the training, and you just see the difference, and you kind of, it's either make or break then, isn't it? It's kind of, you go, right, that's what I have to do. Or you go,
this fellow was either my weight or he was heavier than me. And then I found out he was a stone lighter than me, you know. And I go, how the hell is he stone lighter than me, you know? And I swear to God, he was chiseled like, you know, as the elf saying, a Greek Adonis, you know what I mean? And the 6-pack and the, you know, unreal, like his physique was. And it was just, and as I said, it was a real learning curve and a wake-up call, you know, that we have to push ourselves even harder in Ireland.
Yeah, and so that, like, 5 wasn't, is that kind of the same size of teams, like 5 people? Is that a small team, a big team? Like, what was it?
Yeah, a small team. Again, money wasn't readily available. You know, we weren't getting grants and things like that from the sports councils and things like that. Again, we were solely dependent on our own boxing association. And so with that, I think it was only 5 of us went to that junior world championship in where was it? Where did I say it was? It was in Romania. Absolutely right. Yeah, so it was one of those. Yeah, but you know, again, it was a different thing for us as well. The heat over there as well was, we didn't get it in Ireland, you know what I mean? And oh my God, we were tortured, you know what I mean? It was, and again, it was things you had to adapt to it as well. So, and that was really the first. That was my first international call up, and then 18, I went elite. I went boxing. I won my first national title at 19 at the elite championships I got picked to go to America. I got picked to, other things as well. But the main focus for me was the Olympic Games. I've always wanted to go to the Olympic Games. After my first fight, I said to my dad I was going to go to the Olympic Games. I want to go a medal. And he goes, "You're daft. And I said, he said, well, then do me a favor. I said, well, make me a promise, he says. I said, I promise you, I'm going to win the Olympic Games. I said, and lo and behold, we went and done it, And the two was in the corner, which is even better. Boxing back in the day again, in when I was in the 80s and, 80s, we didn't get too many trips, and, you done a lot of boxing at home. You done a lot around the country boxing. You go to Wexford or Cork or Belfast or places like that. You get fights and things, or they come to you. And then, as I say, when I started making a mark in Irish boxing, then I went crazy. I think I went 3 or 4 years without defeat, and people then were getting to know, here's this Carruth kid. He's good. Let's have a look at him. And then you see people jumping out your weight quicker as well, that they wouldn't weigh in for your weight. What weight's Michael doing? And my dad get phone calls all the time when the championship was coming, what weight's Michael doing? And people were avoiding me, which I always felt, you want to be the best, you have to beat the best, So it was one of those type of things. Now, I'm saying I could have lost some of those fights because, the talent was still great there, but sometimes they made it easier for me by jumping out of my weights, but that was them, not me, so I can only make myself as good as I can, so.
Yeah. And so I suppose I kind of nearly forgotten that you went to the Olympics in 88.
Yeah.
So how was that experience?
Terrible. I got beaten in my second fight. I was pushed in the weight. I was in a lightweight category, which is 9 stone 6. And if I could have, I would have gone at 10 stone. I would have been better at 10 stone. I was just on the limit of that 9 sticks, and I was crucifying myself to make the weight. And I was walking around the day or two before, the fight in sweatsuits trying to lose the weight. And I was up the night before, couldn't go to sleep. Mouth was dry. Can't take a drop of water because you're going to make the weight the next morning. And I dehydrated. I boxed a guy called George Grammy in my second fight in the Olympics in Seoul. And I'd beaten this guy already 6 months previous in the Copenhagen Boxing Cup final. I gave him an absolute hammering, and I got smacked. I got a smack in the first round. I went down. I didn't know where I was, and I said, "What happened here? I've never been down in my life," I said, and it was because I made the weight so bad, and the referee stopped the fight. And my dreams were gone, shattered in a heartbeat. He went on and got a silver medal, he did. He got beaten by the German, Andrews Zulu. And I was ready to give up the game at 21 years old. I promised me dad an Olympic gold medal. I got it all wrong. I got it so wrong with the weight. It was unreal. And hindsight is a great thing. If I'd have known, I would have gone into the 10 stone category rather than 9 stone 6, and I probably would have done a lot better. 4 years later, I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit wiser. I'm a lot better on the weight. I actually moved up 2 weight categories, up to light welterweight after the Olympic Games in '88. I won a world bronze medal in Moscow, and that was a real learning thing for me as well, that I could compete with the world, and I could get there. I got beaten on a tight decision against a guy who I then later returned the fight, he beat me, but then I got him in the Olympic quarterfinals and I beat him, so but it was a huge confidence booster for me that I could go to a world championships and come back with a medal, and I could compete with all these elite lads. And we hadn't got the elite training facilities that we have now. I trained out at Drimnagh. I trained under the guidance of my father. But to me, he was the best coach in the world. And with that, it taught us one thing as well, that we we're Irish. We never give in. We just have to have the skills that the others have. And I was always a stylish southpaw. People always expect that you get the Irish fella, you're going to have a hard fight. He's going to maul you and brawl you, but they didn't expect I could box. I was a counter-punching fighter. You know, I prefer the opponent to come to me rather than me go to the opponent. You know, so but winning the bronze medal was a huge thing for me as well because it gave me a belief in myself again. And then I won I got the bronze medal. I came home from that, and then everything was really geared, Mark, to try qualify for Barcelona 3 years later.
Yeah. And so, was the qualifying, was that a similar path to qualification back then as it is now?
Yeah, you had to call it like there was European Championships, there was World Championships, and then there was multi-nations. So that was the way you could qualify through it. See, I went through that kind of dilemma as well because in 1991 I broke both my hands, broke my left hands, and then I broke my right hand, and I broke my elbow, and I was on the gymnastics team in the army, and all of a sudden they're diagnosing me with brittle bone syndrome or osteoporosis or something it's called, and I was, what's happening to me? Every time I threw a punch, I broke something. You know what I mean? And it was getting really, and it was getting close to national. I got beaten by Billy Walsh in '91 on a tight decision. I won it. I don't give a crap. I won that fight, hands down. You know, and I've watched it a million times. Still won it. You know, so watched it without commentary. Still won it. You know, and you watch a fight without commentary. Do you know why? Because you're not swayed by the commentator, you know. So, and I watched it like that, and I got myself ready then for 1991 and 92. Obviously, fought Billy in 91. I got beaten on a tight decision. Then it went all pear-shaped for me. I started breaking my hands left, right, and centre, and I was to go to Billy went to the European Championships in 1991 in Sweden, where our own Paul Griffin from Drimnagh Boxing Club won the gold medal, which meant he qualified for the Olympic Games. Billy didn't qualify over there, and I was hoping he didn't. You know, I had the voodoo doll of sticking pins in him, and so with that, I had another chance. They decided that I was going to go to the World Championships ahead of Billy, me being the reigning bronze medalist champ in '89, and a week before I was to go out there, I broke my left hand sparring down in Wexford of all places, where Billy's from. No, sorry, he was in Drogheda, sorry. And I just felt what's going wrong here. Like it was a week before we were to fly out to Australia to go to World Championships. I actually rang Billy and told him to get himself training. You got a week to get ready for the championships, and he did. And he hadn't got enough time. And again, he didn't qualify. So he'd gone to 2 qualifying stages and couldn't qualify. And then 92 came along. We had our national championships in January. I only got my plaster taken off 2 days before Christmas, and I had my first fight on the 10th of January. Now think about that, right? So I got through to the final, and I beat Billy Walsh in the final. And then the IABA done a dirty on me, and they made me fight again 2 weeks later. And I boxed off, and I boxed the ears off because Billy had put weight on and he'd stopped training, and he'd only given a week's notice where I was still training. And I beat him 24-6 or something was the score. And I gave him a hiding. I really did. And I then had the chance to qualify to go to the qualifiers for in Italy. And I went and I qualified the last place for Barcelona. And it was a lovely phone call to my father, that I rang him, and they couldn't see you. We don't live in this world. Well, this world now, 20 plus years ago. Did I do something there?
You're all good.
I don't know. There's something there I can't see. I'll just check this. So, sorry. I qualified, and I got to make a phone call to my dad, and they were all nervous in the house and they're waiting for the result. And he says, I said, can I ask you a question? I said, he said, yeah. He says, do you still have that bottle of champagne in the fridge? I said. He says, yeah, I do. He says, why? I said, you know what, Dad? I said, I'd have a glass of that tonight. I said, he says, why? I said, I've just qualified for my second Olympics. I said, yeah. And he wasn't a man to show too much emotion or jump all over the place. And when he came out, he was scratching his head. Like, you know, and when he was scratching his head, there was always something wrong. And my mum said, well, he's tried his best. He's done better than that. He's after qualifying for the Olympics, and all the brothers and sisters jumped all over the place like I'd won the Olympics, you know. And so lo and behold, I got home a few days later, and boxing took a back seat for once. I got married in April. I qualified in March, and I got married in April, and Billy Welch was my first person I invited to my wedding. So Billy, I obviously have to take that away from him, and so Billy came up to the wedding, and we had a great time. I couldn't go on a honeymoon because we were going into camp then for Barcelona in May, and I brought Paul away to a lovely place called Liverpool for the weekend, and I brought her to a football match. Liverpool played Man United and beat them, and I think the Grand National was on that weekend as well. It was an amazing weekend over Liverpool, and then we got into training camp for Barcelona, and you know when the qualifiers, you know, yes, they're as equally as hard as they were back then as they are now. So really, it works on two major championships, which is the European or the World, and you have to qualify in a certain, you know, either semi-finals and things like that. And then there's normally a multi-nation somewhere, and mine was a multi-nations in Italy in a place called San Pellegrino. And as I said, I qualified the last fight, you know, so it was a box off, and it was between me and a French guy called Said Benjamin was his name, and I box really well, you know. And you know, when you're boxing well, you know you're boxing well, you know you're ahead. And I kind of knew what he was doing before he knew what he was doing, you know. So I won the fight clearly and easily, and it was a great fight for me as well. And then what happened as well, this Said Benjamin made it to the Olympic Games, even though I beat him. He was the first reserve. So if anybody got injured or pulled out, he was brought in, and he actually qualified for the Olympic Games, which made it even better for me as well, because he got to fight Juan Hernandez Sierra in his first or second fight, I think it was. And I beat him by about a score of 10 points, Benjamin. And I think Hernandez only beat him by about 4 points. And I said, anything that gives you a heads up, and you know what I'm talking about, anything you're like wearing your socks the same way, or, you know, wearing a t-shirt that you wear underneath your jumper, or you're underneath your, you know, that it gives you a good look. You know how superstitious most sports people are. I said, well, geez, I'm not beating him more than he beat me when we get to the final here, you know what I mean? So it was one of those type of things. And once I seen that, well, I beat him on a bigger score, you know? So that was it. So the boxing then, Barcelona was obviously one of our greatest moments, if not our greatest moments. It was a type of thing, you know, it was brilliant in the sense that the only two surviving members of the team from the 88 Olympics was Brian McCullough and Michael Carruth, you know. And it's kind of fitting that the two of us won the medals in Barcelona, and the two of us get to the final, which was crazy. Two Irish boxers in the final and fighting two Cubans, which is even crazier again. And Hernandez would, like, if someone had to give me 10,000 quid to bet on somebody winning the Olympics, I would have bet on him, you know, to win the Olympic gold medal. You know, I didn't think I'd beat him in a final, you know what I mean? But sod's law, that's the way it went, you know. So it was a good time.
Yeah, like I think that's the one thing, and I suppose that I would assume is even, you know, something that even makes even better is the tradition that the Cubans have in Olympic boxing, and especially in amateur boxing. So to beat a Cuban in an Olympic final, you know, it's everything you'd want.
It's a Liverpool Man United situation in FA Cup, isn't it? It's Liverpool beating United or United beating Liverpool. If it's a World Cup, it's Brazil versus, who could you say is the second best in the world? We could say Italy or France or something like that, or even Argentina. Yeah. So it's one of those, you know. But you don't really want to be fighting a Cuban in an Olympic final, you know. I mean, let's be honest, you know. So and like, he was huge. He was the size of the building, you know. Like, he was 6'3" or I'm 5'8", you know. And he had all the advantages, but the biggest advantage he had as well was I broke my hand in the first fight, my left hand, and I broke my right hand in the third fight. So I went into the Olympic final with two of my hands broke. And not many people know that, so it was kept secret, we had to keep it secret. So when you were getting your medical done in the daytime, in the morning time, the doctor be doing all this, and you'd be crying, with the pain, but you couldn't let on that you were hurt because you'd been pulled straight out. And it was one of those moments that I said to my dad, the final at the Olympic final morning, we done our way in, and I said, you better tell Mom my hands are broken. I said, he says, do you really think I need to do that? I said, I think you should tell her. I said, yeah. Because you only get a lot of trouble if she finds out. I said, now, all my brothers now, none of my sisters now. So that morning we said, all right, I done my way in, came back, had my breakfast. We went to the office. We said, we'll make a phone call to my mum. And I said to my dad, you're going to tell her? And he says, yeah, absolutely. So he's on the phone to her. He said, how's things? I said, yeah, how's he? Yeah, you know him. He has his earphones on. He's playing music. And you know what he's like. Nothing rattles him, So he says, he's actually got something to tell you, And I looked at him. You dirty ratchet, I said, So all of a sudden, I told her my hands were broken. And it was this early silence. And she says, Michael, she says, well, put your dad back on the phone, will you? And I says, no, man. I said, I'm fighting this fight today. Nothing has stopped me today. I said, this is my destiny. I said, so lo and behold, I hung up with her. And he said, well, I said, you're dead. I said, And he says, you wouldn't mind getting me out of it, would you? I said, I'll try my best for you. I said, So then, obviously, we all know the fight. The fight went according to plan. We did actually the way we wanted it. He thought initially I was going to go to him because I was smaller and he was taller. And we played the other game. We brought him to me, into my range. We're two southpaws. So the two of us lead were our right hands. And my right hand was faster than his right hand. And I do what I do best. I get ahead and I stay ahead, And that's what I done the whole fight, although we were level going into the last round. I got a public warning in the second round for holding. And that gave him 3 scores. But it also told me, I'm scoring more than him. If he hadn't got that public warning, I'd be 3 points ahead of him at this stage, And then I think the first minute of the last round, I became the Olympic champion because he came at me. Because he was getting an absolute going over from his coaches in the corner. Well, you're letting this little Irish fella beat you, you know what I mean? What the hell? And he fell into the trap. Come on, Abby, come at me. And I hooked him. And I caught him 3 lovely hooks in a row. And it was brilliant as well that there was about 4,000 Irish people in the arena because Salou was not too far away from Barcelona if you've been around there. And everybody came up to watch the fights, and try to get into the Olympic final. So anytime I even threw a punch and missed even, they still applauded it, and screamed for it, So I was kind of getting to the judges as well, we'll better get to the Irish, we'll better get to the Irish guy, But the most important thing at the end of the fight is the boxers always know who wins and who loses. And you look at my celebration and you look at his glum face, he knew he was beaten. I knew I'd won. And I'm not telling you what a lie there, Jamie. If I had not got the decision, I would still have classed myself as Olympic champion because I knew I won that fight and he knew he lost, And we had the best judges out there, And then I kind of had even rehearsed the night before how I was going to celebrate, believe it or not, And not that I'm over religious or anything like that. I was going to get on and bless myself. And that kind of went out the window when your man tried to lift my arm up. And I don't know if you ever, in boxing, the referee normally has a good hold of your hand. And you have won. But if you haven't won, he's barely even holding it. And he's barely holding my hand. And I go, here, hold that bloody arm, you said. And lo and behold, he did. And it was announced in Spanish. And then I felt my arm going up. And I think he got to about there. And then I just went crazy. I don't know if have you seen my celebration, So yeah. I jumped and I hit every rope, and I'm only glad that the ropes were there because I'd have done some damage. And then I said, again, I'm going to go back to that discipline side of it. It was, I said, what are you doing, you big age? You jump around like a bloody peacock here, fellas after losing. And I copped on. I went over to him, I shook hands with him, I shook hands with his corner, and I went over to give me dad a hug. And it was crazy. It was just crazy. I was. If you watch me on the podium, I really think I'm suffering with shock on the podium because it was just like all these cameras are on me. That's the tricolour going up there, you know. They're playing around the vein, you know what I mean? I stood to attention because as a soldier, I don't know if you ever noticed that. I got put the flowers down by my side, and then that was it. My dad said to me as well in the corner, I promised him I'd win the Olympics, and he asked me to make that promise, and he said, thanks. I said, for what? And I forgot about that 7 years old. And I said, for what? He says, for keeping your promise, he says. You know? So then you don't feel the hands when they're broken, you know, and you win. Yeah. The adrenaline that's going through you, you don't feel anything, you know. And we got back into the dressing room, and it was a great moment because we got the whole team together, and we kind of got in a huddle, the 6 boxers who were over there from Ireland, and we just kind of went ballistic in the toilet. And then a certain fella called George Foreman knocked on the door. He wanted to come in, and I met George 4 years earlier in Seoul. I was at the getting beaten, and I'm at the walking around the corner, and I bump into this big, large black man. And being the dub that I am, I told him, out of my way, you know what I mean? And then I looked up and I went, oh God, I'm picking a fight with George Foreman. I said, you know, he says, what's wrong with you, son? I says, I'm after losing my fight. Oh, we have to lose some to win some, he says. I said, not me, I said. He said, what do you mean, not you? I said, my name is Michael Carruth. I'm from Ireland. I'm going to win the Olympic Games, I says. You know? And he must have thought I was Lala. You know? And all of a sudden, Foreman goes to all the boxing finals that you can go to. His good friend is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he was at the arena in Barcelona as well. And the fight comes up, and my name comes up, and Michael Carruth, he goes, I met this kid 4 years ago. He was saying to Arnold. I said, what? He says, he told me he's going to win the Olympics. And he's fighting Cuba, he says. He's no chance, he says. You know? So lo and behold, we got back down to the dressing room, and it was crazy. It really was, because when you're in this kind of, all of a sudden, you're in a bubble, you know, and I threw water on my face. That's water. That's definitely water. I'm not dreaming. And I said, swear to God, I'm not dreaming. And I threw more water on my face, and that's what they hit me. I can feel it. I can taste it, you know. And then Paul Buttermer came in, and you know those little pinches under your arm? You get one of those little pinches. And I went, what you doing that for? He said, did you feel that, boy? Because he's from Cork. I said, God, I felt it, you little shit. What you doing that for? He says, you're not dreaming, boy. You're not dreaming, he says. You know, and that's when the rest of the lads came in, and we done the cuddle and the whole thing. So all of a sudden, I went back into the dressing room, and I put a towel on my head. I was just trying to soak it up. I wasn't like, you know, I was getting the sweat out of me as well. And there was a knock at the door, and someone came in, and Putsy said, I think we better let these two in. And it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and George Foreman. And George was talking to my father, and I still had the towel over my head, and I didn't look up. And he says, this kid told me 4 years ago he was going to win the Olympics. And I go, who the hell is this? I said, and then my dad said, well, he's been telling me since he was 7 years old he's going to win it, you know? So all of a sudden the towel came off my head, and there's George Foreman right in front of me, right? And what did I say to him?
What are you doing there?
I told you. He says, yes, you did, he said. And we've become good pals over the years as well. He's been out of the world a few times promoting his fat reducing grill and things like that as well. But, you know, you say to yourself, and all of a sudden, is my life ever going to be the same again now? Because when all of a sudden George Foreman and Arnold Schwarzenegger coming into the dressing room, you know, where if I'd lost the fight, they'd never come in, you know. And it was a huge, again, changing point in my life, you know. And you have to adapt to it as well, because like people think you can, it's like microwave fame, it's instant, you know what I mean? And it's hard, you know, and your privacy and everything else that, you know, all of a sudden everybody knew who Michael Carruth was. You know, nobody knew who Michael Carruth was except the boxing people going over to Barcelona, you know. But everybody knew who Michael Carruth was when they came back from Barcelona, you know. And I suppose, okay, come the spoils, come the, you know, the riches as well. But it was one of those things that, listen, I fulfilled my lifelong dream. I became the Olympic champion.
Yeah. So, like, what was it like then when you got back to Ireland? Because it was
a bit mad.
A whirlwind.
Mad. Yeah, it was crazy, and we got in late on I think it was Monday night. We got into Dublin, and I said, and Wayne McCullough says to me, you think there's going to be anybody here? And I said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, everybody's coming to work tomorrow. What a chance. And then we're going to get off the plane on and you could just see silhouettes of people, you know, in the and thankfully they got the camera off me, because I said to him, the whole effing country's here. I said to him, you know, and he says, "Hey, look, oh my God, look at the numbers, Michael. You're the captain. You're doing all the speeches. You're doing all the speeches." He says to me, you know, 'cause Wayne didn't like talking media time and what have you, and you're the captain. You're the captain. That's it. You're doing everything. So we got into the airport, and they pushed me and my wife Paula into this kind of, I can only describe it as a broom cupboard, right? And I go, what the heck is throwing me in here for? You know, just for to have a few minutes on our own. And I said, what's happening? She said, Michael, the whole country's nearly here, she says. And I said, holy moly. And then the Taoiseach was there at the time, which was Bertie Ahern. And he done a speech, and they all booed him. And they didn't want to hear the politicians talking. They wanted to hear me talk and Wayne talk and captains and managers and what have you. And we done that. And then I said, I just wanted to go home to my own house, myself and Paula, right? And all of a sudden, then we're brought to the which hotel did they bring us in Harold's Cross? I think it was the Burlington. It's gone now, and we're in the best room in the Burlington. And I was saying to myself, holy moly, you know, like all of a sudden it changes your life, you know, and you're in the best room. And I said, what's happening? He says, there's going to be a parade through Dublin the next day. And I go, what? And I says, yeah. He says, but it's Tuesday. I said, well, people are off work tomorrow. It's like they have to call a day off work, and something like, I think, 500,000 to 1 million people turned up to see me and Wayne go through the you know, bus stop tour, you know, and you know, and we stopped at the Mansion House, and there was thousands and thousands of people there, and then they brought me back to Drimnagh, and then eventually back up to my mother and father's house in Greenhills, and there was still thousands of people there, and it was just, I had to climb out, I had to, you know, to get out at my mum's house, I had to climb over back walls, and my brother-in-laws were waiting in the back in the laneways to get me back to my own house, and I eventually got back to my own house the night after we got back, and it was just crazy from then on, because all of a sudden people just knew where I lived, and it was just knocking on the door constant for autographs or photographs or just even a shake of a hand, you know. And I never deprive anybody of that, you know what I mean? It was absolutely mind-boggling, you know. But it helped as well that I was an identical triplet, so I could get away with things if the three of us were there, you know. Tim, yeah. So we got away with murder with that as well, you know. So, but again, as I say, I fulfilled my lifelong dream, becoming an Olympic champion. So it was a good time.
Were you able to kind of even process all that stuff, like when it was going on, or was it only when you kind of maybe looked back a little bit after to kind of go like, what was going on?
Yeah, it was kind of like, as I said, you know, 6 months earlier, you know, you probably, you know, you're training for an Olympic Games, and you want to go into a pub or something like that, or a nightclub, and this happened. Yourself and Paula got engaged, and they wouldn't let the two of us in for some reason. And I'm not going to give you the name of it. And when I came back after one of the Olympic Games, another pub done a big night for me, and we said, come on, we go dancing. So we went back dancing to that same nightclub that wouldn't let me in that time, you know. And they told me I wasn't allowed in because my hair was too tight. I was in the army, you know. And I said, hey, it's for real. I said, and I'd only probably a drink or two on me at that stage, because I wasn't drinking. I wasn't a heavy drinker, because I was training. And then all of a sudden you see kind of the hypocrisy of people, you know, that 6 months earlier they wouldn't let me in, and then 6 months later I'm allowed to order drinks for anybody in the nightclub, you know. And trust me, everybody in that club got a bloody drink off me that night, you know what I mean? Because I punished them. And then they give you a lift home, which makes it even more hypocrisy again, you know what I mean? So, but again, I understand it as well. Like, it's fame is fame. Mine was instant, you know, and you had to adapt to it. Like Wayne's was like Kennedy Egan as well, and it's how you adapt to it as well, because it can get the better of you. And I was fortunate. I come from a family of 10 kids, I'm the seventh child born in my family, so I know the pecking order. And if I was getting out of hand, my siblings would have no problem telling me, "Oh, you're playing, I hear you don't be," And so it was one of those things. And then the way I always put it was only just another fight. That's the way I put it to myself. It was only just another fight. People don't. It's only just another fight, I said. And it was just only another fight. For the best prize. I understand that. But I didn't let it get to me as well. I didn't say, "Oh, people you're gonna make billions and billions," and I never didn't cost me mine once. No amount of money ever could replace an Olympic gold medal. And so I didn't look at it that way either. And I wanted to get back training, and I wanted to stay boxing, and the only way I could then was to turn professional, because I would get robbed in the amateurs. Do you know what I mean? I'm never going to stay undefeated as an amateur, so I was going out on a high as an Olympic champion as the amateurs. I went into the professional game for 6 years. I done okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And then I got out of boxing. That's it. My dad gave me a great bit of advice. Take a bit of time off, he says. You've been boxing since you're 7 years old. He said, you're now nearly 30 years old, or whatever. 33, I think it was at the time when I finished boxing. And I said, what do you want me to do? Take a time off and come back and coach in the club. And I did. And now I'm head coach of Drimnagh Boxing Club. I was down there today cleaning the place, because we're trying to get it back up and running as quick as we can, like everybody else is. So, but again, it was great. Listen, it's my proudest day. There's no question about it. It's a day that I'll never forget, and I'm never allowed to forget it as well, because we Irish tend to exaggerate sometimes and what have you, don't we? And we go on about it. But it was my best day.
Yeah, well, we tend to go on about some things. I find, some of the, like, I suppose maybe I wasn't maybe alive, but like you look back and the storm that would have been around Italia 90, and what did they go in the quarterfinals and all. It's like, so, but you won an Olympic gold medal, So it's like
yeah, I'm kind of amazed.
It's a big deal of the small things, but this is a big thing, it's something that deserves to be a big deal made of it as well.
I remember I was slagging Niall Quinn, because Quinn was from nearly around the same area I was, and we were in the same school for a certain time as well. And he was a year older than me, I think. I always remember he had the same agent as I had. John Gibbons was then, and I said, "Why the hell did you get civic reception?" And he's won nothing. I said, "You should only get civic reception when you win something." I said, "At least I won something." I said, "You got to the quarterfinals of the World Championships or something and won nothing. You were beaten." I said, I won nothing. I said, I mean, hypocrisy at its finest. I said, I mean. And I agree with what you're saying there. All of a sudden, because somebody finishes, I always remember some of the athletes saying to me, "I got me PB, I got me SB," and I go, "What the hell is that?" That's my personal best time and my seasonal best time. And I go, "Did you win a medal?" And he goes, "No." "What are you talking about?" I says, "No point in me fighting great and losing."
Yep.
You lose, So I said, "Okay," and they were happy enough with their PB or their SB, and no way would I be happy with that. I'd be happy with winning, and that's all I'm ever happy with, And I think we have to I think we've got that kind of mentality now that we can compete with the best and beat the best. I mean, probably not in soccer just yet, again, but pretty GAA, hurling and Gaelic football wasn't an Olympic sport, isn't it? So, but it's one of those type of things, But again, I firmly believe that, I always said to myself, if I'm not my best, it'll take you a great one to beat me. I said, and I was at my best in Barcelona because, firstly, my weight was good, my mindset was even better, and I was as fit as a butcher's dog, and I had my dad in the corner, So all of these little things make the big jigsaw complete. And it truly made the big jigsaw.
And did that even make it even better, having your dad in the corner? Like you said, you're saying for the qualifier you had to make the call home, but for the Olympics he got to be there in the corner then.
Yeah, he was coach for me obviously all my life, but we were in Germany for training camp. He was there. We roomed together. He was becoming an awful annoyance as well, like having your outfit around you all the time. I was, as I said, the team captain, and he used to wake me up around 4 o'clock in the morning and get me to drink a glass of water. I don't know how many times I didn't try to kill him. You know what I mean? Because you're in the middle of a sleep, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he has me drinking water because he didn't want me dehydrating during the night. But again, the morning of the Olympic final, we were in the dressing room and I got my hand wraps on, and it was probably the only time he lost it as a coach I've ever seen him. You know, like he became my father in Carruth rather than my coach, and that was the first time I ever seen him doing that. And he goes, your legs, your legs, your legs, your legs. That's all he kept. He kept hitting me legs. And he goes, your legs are going to win it for you. There's nobody better than your feet than you. He says, yeah. And he goes, your legs. And I said, Ozzy. His name was Austin. We called him Ozzy. I said, Ozzy, fuck off. I said, I'm sorry for cursing. But I said, get out. I said, you're losing it. Walk out. I said, and come back to me. I says, yeah. So he came back and he says, probably did lose it there for a few minutes. He says, yeah. But again, how would you be like in an Olympic final and your son's in the final and you're down his corner? Yeah. How would you be? You know what I mean? So you'd be terrified that you're giving them the wrong instructions and the whole 9 yards. So it was one of those things. And as I said, we were walking out of the dressing room, and that is the scary time, okay? Because you're getting into the ring, the head guard's on, the gloves are on, you can't get them off, you know? Okay, and it is a scary time. And then I see the cube, and oh, Jesus, the size of this fella, you know? And you go, and nerves get you, there's no question about it, you know? And I looked at my father, and he looked nervous, you know, and he never ever really showed that kind of, you know, trait and what have you. And I said, Ozzy. And he goes, what? I said, Delaney's time is up, I said. He said, what? I said, Ronnie Delaney's time is up. I said, I'm winning this fight today. And he said, every hair in his body stood up, he says, when I said that's one. Right? And Ronnie, I wasn't being disrespectful to Ronnie Delaney. Ronnie was our last winner in 1956. And I said, his time is up. I said, I'm winning this fight, Dad. I said, and he said to me, oh my God, he said, what a feeling. He said, well, through me, that my whole body, he says. And it was one of those moments I felt I could do it, you know, and I really did. And we got through it. We got through and we played a great game of chess. You know what I mean? He, as I said to you earlier on in the interview, he thought we were going to go wrong. We brought him to us, you know what I mean? And he was thick enough to stay coming at me, you know what I mean? I frustrated him a few times as well. And I hit him a few times where I shouldn't have hit him. And, you know, he done the same to me, but the referee was picking on me quite a bit, you know? And, but then, as I said, he knew he lost, I knew I'd won, you know? And the rest is history. He actually got beaten again in the next Olympic final in America against the Russian. He did, and the Russian boxed him the exact same way I boxed him. I thought it was me fighting him again. You know what I mean? The way the Russian boxed him. You know? It was exactly the same way I boxed him. You know? And then I think he absconded over to America. He got out of Cuba. But what a fighter! He'd won 5 world titles as an amateur and never won an Olympic gold medal. He's twice silver medalist. I actually think he got a bronze medal as well at one of them as well. So he never won it. He must be the greatest Cuban never to win an Olympic final, you know, which is unreal for them. You know, as you said earlier on, they're a nation of, you know, pure talent. You know what I mean? And it's the number one sport is boxing, you know. So, but don't forget, we had a Cuban in the corner with us as well, Nicholas Carruth, which was a help to us as well. Nicholas was, he was number one coach there, but my dad done my corner because that's the way we wanted it, you know, and that's the way I wanted it, and that was the way it happened, you know what I mean? So he was the second, and my dad was first.
Yeah. And so then, like, what was it? How did you find, I suppose, working in the army and balancing boxing training and your fighting career as well? How did you find
the army? The lads let me do everything. You have an employment in the army. You could be a cook. You could be on the army band. You could be. I was a PT instructor, so I was working in the gym. So I got time to do my training, in the army as well. And they gave me any time I wanted off. If I was going into training camps, if I was going to tournaments, any time I wanted to deal with, you know, representing Ireland, it was a privilege and honour for them. And then I got a new CEO at the time, company officer, and he didn't know anything about me until I won the gold medal, and then he knew a lot about me. And then the army it was crazy because I fell asleep after the Olympic final. Right, went to bed. Right, it sounds mad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm at the winning the final, and I'm knackered, right? And I'm at the because you're so used to having naps during the day as well, right? And I had a couple of glasses of beer or champagne earlier, and kind of went to my head, and because you're so disciplined not to be on, obviously that, you know. And I went to bed and I conked out for about 2 hours, you know. And my dad woke me up and he said, "Carol, wake up, Sergeant, wake up, Sergeant." And I go, "You stupid, I'm a corporal," he says, "You're not anymore." So what do you mean I'm not anymore? He said, "They're promoting you to sergeant tomorrow." And I didn't want it because there's a lot of people in the army who've been waiting years to be transferred or promoted to sergeant. And I did not want it. I wanted to do it the other way. Put my service in as a sergeant or as a corporal and then get a sergeant's stripe. But it was the only way that the army deemed they could reward me or, you know. And lo and behold, the next day, the Minister for Defence, I can't remember, I think it was Father Andrews, I'm not sure, I'll have to check up. And he said, I think he rang me the next day and said, "Good morning, sir." And he said, "They're officially promote me to sergeant when I return home from the games." You know? And I said, and honest to God, I didn't want it, you know, but there's nothing I could do. It was the only way they deemed they could acknowledge what I'd done, you know. So we went into Cottleborough Barracks a few days later. And my mate Paddy was driving this van or this kind of Jeep, and I was on the back of the Jeep. It was like a small Pope mobile. If you've ever seen the Pope mobile, right? And I said, "What are we doing?" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, now he was a private, so I had rank on him as well. So I said, "What do you mean you don't know?" "They told me to collect you at the gate and drive you up to the square." "And what do I do?" "I don't know, Mick." He says, "Yeah. Needed you, you know." So all of a sudden he knocks me out, he gets me onto the parade. I said, "I'm probably gonna have to march on here," I said, you know. So I marched onto the square and I went straight up to the commanding officer and saluted him. He saluted me, said a few words. He says, "Will you say a few words to the rest of the ranks?" Oh God. And I had nothing prepared, but it's amazing that, you know, when you lose as well, people slag you like crazy, all right? And there was a certain fella there called Pat Jordan. He was he trained with me as a recruit. We done our NCO course together. And for 4 years I had to listen to Swede, because I got beaten by the Swede in Seoul. And the amount of times I was going to kill him, I swear to God, you know. And lo and behold, 4 years listening to this. So as I was marching on, I seen Geordie in the ranks in our company, you know. So I got up and I said, "Done the usual, you know, sort of all the dignitaries you have to do." And I said, "Can I ask a question?" And they go, "Yeah." I said, "Is Corporal Jordan in ranks today?" And then Sergeant Major gets, "Jordan, front and centre," right? So he marches Geordie up to me. I said, "Stand in front of me, you." I said, and then he was at ease, and I said, "Get up to attention when you're talking to a sergeant," I said to him, you know, because he was a corporal, right? It was just one rank below. And it was my first time I abused my authority, right? So I said, "Up to attention." And he's looking at me going, "Look, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you." "Actually, Paul, come here." God, I said, "Stop it easy." I said, "Come over here to me with the other side of the phone, or the other side of the mic," I said. "Come over here and we'll have a talk." "Oh, Mick, don't do this. Don't do this, Mick, please." He says, "Yeah." I said, "Geordie, tell them for 4 years, what did you used to say to me every day?" "And Mick," he says, "tell them I used to go Swede." "Why did you go Swede?" "Because the Swedish guy beat you in the Olympics in 1988, he says. "And every day, and sometimes probably 10 times a day, would it be, Geordie?" He says, "Yeah." I just pulled me gold medal out of my pocket, right? "Am I going to ever hear Swede again?" "No way, Mick, no way." He says, "Fall back in, your arsehole." I said something else. And the crack we had then in the barracks was unreal. You know, we had a great party, and it was another moment that all of a sudden you wouldn't have. You know, you wouldn't. get away with, because I got away with certain things even on that speech I was doing, and you'd never normally get away with it, you know what I mean? Because they'd wait for it, you know what I mean? And then my mate Paddy was, a good pal of mine. He says to me, we're only home about 3 or 4 days from Barcelona at this, because it was just craziness. You're going everywhere. And he says, what are you doing? I says, you're bringing me up to your house. Me and Paul are going up to your house. He lives in Wicklow. And he says, right, and we're going to go up to your house. And I said, well, we're going to spend a day or two up at your house. I said, end the story. He said, Mick, he said, well, they know down in Wicklow you're one as well, he says. So I know that, I said, you big eater. I said, so of course we were having a few drinks, and he said, come on, we get down to the pub. We had a few drinks in the house. He said, Mick, are you mad? I said, come on, we get down to the pub. Jesus, worst thing I ever done. You know what I mean? Because everybody and their brother wanted a piece of it. You know what I mean? And we went into the nightclub later on that night again, and it was the second worst thing I ever done in my life. You know what I mean? Because people want to just come over and shake your hands and just gently you get it. There's Michael Carruth. You know what I mean? But again, that's fame. That's, as I say, it's they forget you easily enough then afterwards. You know what I mean? But it's the thing that will stay with us forever in that regard.
Yeah, I suppose it's there's worse things in the world, I suppose, that could happen. Then you win an Olympic gold medal and suddenly you're hit with the fame.
Yeah, of course it is. And like I lost a 7-year-old nephew. He drowned in Blessing Lakes in 1989. And if people give me the option of either what I'd want, I know what I'd want. I'd want him back and fetch me Olympic gold medal. You know what I mean? And that's the bottom line. So, family's always first. And I come from a great family. I've 4 sisters and 5 brothers. Mum and Dad gone now over the last couple of years, but we all meet up at Christmas. All of us and all their grandchildren and great-grandchildren now. It's blossoming into a huge, huge family. And it's, again, a thing my father would be immensely proud of is that he had 10 children, and on him dying, his 10 kids were married and all still married. It's a huge thing now in this day and age, and it's one of his most proudest moments, if not his proudest moment. There's 10 children married and all still married, and I was the 7th one married in my family, So it's, you think about it, and I'm 28, 9 years married. So it's, again, it's truly an ounce of breathing is worth a ton of feeding. So yeah, that's what it was.
And do you think then that I suppose you've mentioned a couple of times already, even that the army offered you, it gave you great discipline, which went hand in hand with your boxing career?
Yeah, it was, and of course it was. It's if you don't put the work in boxing, you don't get the results. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And I put the work in, and as I said to you earlier on there, I said, once I put the work in, the physicality work that I could not be better, and I got my weight right. And this all stems through, army discipline as well. It really does. And I always remember my first day in the army, and this fella screaming in my ear, right? And I won't tell you his name, okay? But I said to myself, his voice is going to go before my hearing. I said, right? Because if he keeps shouting like that, he's not going to be able to talk in the morning, right? And he kept giving it those, right? My hearing was still okay. And he was like, next one, couldn't talk, But again, he was trying to discipline us, So with that, yeah, boxing was a huge part. And joining the army was an even huger part for my career. Because, again, it gave me that stability that I had a few quid in the pocket. It gave me any amount of training that I wanted to do on my own in the club, in the army. I got to do my 2 training sessions a day most days, where I could train in the army and then go to Drimnagh Boxing Club that night. I could do runs, or I could do different things as well. Great amount of friends as well. Like, it was a great honour for the 2nd Battalion to get the Olympic champion, and put it to every other battalion. And what you've got, we won the Olympics, And it's, it's a role of honour, in that sense of the word, But the army was a huge part of me winning the Olympic Games. They really were.
Yeah. And do you look back with any regret on how your pro career went, considering you had such a...
Yeah, I do. I probably shouldn't have signed with Frank Warren, because he had a little fella called Nas, and he didn't care about anybody else. I should have probably gone to that fella in Louisiana. Or, Jimmy Moyler was his name, or Wheeler, sorry, was his name. And I would have been his first pro signing. And he would have put everything into it, you know. And I think it would have been more discipline away from home as well. Because when you get home, you fall into the same old traits, you know, in between fights and things like that. If I was in America training, I wouldn't have got into that thing. I didn't take it serious enough sometimes as well, the professional game. I boxed against Michael Lowy from Germany for the world title out in Germany. And I've no question I won the fight. There's no question I won it. But they gave it to him, you know, and that's boxing for you. And that really burst my bubble. And I said, "Fuck this, and I don't want this anymore." You know, I went another year or two, and it's a rough game in a sense that, you know, you have to sell the seats and you have to get bums on seats, and you know, it's an industry, and let's be honest, that's what it is. It's not really about boxing or anything like that. Amateur boxing is always my first love, always will be. You know what I mean? Professional boxing, I got a few quid. I done okay out of it. I probably could have done better, but I didn't. So there's no point in harping on about it, you know. But I met a few nice friends in the professional game. Got to see nice places, boxed in nice places. Boxed in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, you know. So boxing England, Wembley, places like that. So it was, you know, it was what it was. But like, I really could have done a lot better if I really wanted it, I think. And it was all down to me, you know. I was a long time boxing, and you know, I had my first pro fight. I was only my 13th pro fight for a world championship, you know. So think of it that way, you know. So again, I felt I won the fight, but one or two judges didn't, you know. So
yeah, I suppose that's it with the Olympic gold medal. It can be a blessing or a curse to some degree when you get into the professional.
Yeah. With the professional as well, that, you know, I was fighting a guy from Germany in Germany on his first defense. You know, how many people really lose that first defense? And I said to Frank Warren, "This is a very risky job here." "Oh, well, come on, you're good enough, you're going to win it." I said, "I'll win it, but they mightn't give it to me." I said, and that's exactly what happens. He never boxed again after that fight. I retired him. So that'll tell you, you know. So he knows he's beaten, you know. So, and I did. I took him out in the 11th round, you know. And I gave him an awful hard time in that fight, and he never boxed again. So that's my answer to that. Should I become world champion? Yes, I should have. Yeah. So, and then I kind of lost all heart for it then. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So what do you make of then? Because obviously recently they've, I don't know if it was, I'm not totally sure, was it in for the last Olympics, of professionals being able to enter into the Olympics? What's your kind of take on that?
Load of crap. It really is. You know, it really is, because it's, you know, to be honest, I would like to take it. I'd like to get a professional in the amateur game. There's over 3 rounds I'd beat anybody. Right? Professionals don't really start getting going to the 4th and 5th round. You know, they're too one paced and they don't, things like that. So if you got a pro, yeah, I'd be happy with it. You know, okay, you don't want the Mosleys or the big names, but most of the pros who went back into the amateur, the Olympics, probably failed the first time I never got to an Olympics. You know, so I think it was a stupid rule. I really do. Pros are pros, amateurs are amateurs. That's a simple game. I don't think the basketball team should have been let in either. I don't think the golfers should be let in either. They're not amateurs, they're professional. Olympic Games is all about amateur sports people, you know. So you're looking at Justin Rose becoming an Olympic champion. Really, you know what I mean? He's won a couple of majors and what have you, but does he class that as one of his biggest prizes? I don't know. So, but I don't believe that it should be there. You know, it's an amateur sport. It should be an amateur sport in all sports. They had the dream team there, like the American basketball team. You know, Michael Jordan's, and go on, you can name a few more. I don't know them, but the bottom line is, no. Boxers would not go in. Professional boxers like the Manny Pacquiao's or the Mosleys, because they know they could be beaten over 3 rounds by a real good amateur. And remember, there's a lot of politics in boxing as well. Like if you're fighting a Russian, and all of a sudden you could have Uzbekistan judge or Georgian judge or Lithuanian judge. Three of them there are old comrades of yesteryear, you know what I mean? And you're not getting them, man. You're going to have to knock them out to get a draw. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a stupid rule letting professional boxing or professional people into the Olympic Games. I still do. And and I'm a huge golf fan. I'm a golfer, and I just no, shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, like you said, there's like amateur boxing for me. It's kind of, for me, I think it's pure boxing. It's pure competition. It's just about fighting. There's nothing about there's
And
no
there's
no
never
enter.
necessarily there's great entertainment, as you're saying, but there's never a real favorite going to win on it. Anything can happen in amateur boxing. Right? I proved that 28 years ago. I beat Juan Hernandez Sierra from Cuba. He was twice world champion. He won everything, but the lotto, that fella. And I made a fairy tale come true. But like if you're fighting a Shane Mosley or you're fighting a Floyd Mayweather or guys like that, like they had their chance of becoming Olympic champions and didn't get it. They should not let the pros into the amateur game. By all means, let the amateurs back into the pro game. That's the way it works. But definitely doesn't work the other way around. And to be honest, like, what main boxer would go back in? Like, look at the caliber of professionals who got into the Olympic Games. You didn't see any of the good ones. So that's what, because they know over 3 rounds we'll get a beat. And they're going to look like idiots. So and it's not going to up the ratings, and it's not going to do anything like that, because people who like boxing, amateur boxing, will watch amateur boxing. It's like anything in the Olympics. I watch bloody everything in the Olympics. Synchronized swimming, I watch absolutely everything. I'm sports nut, you know what I mean? And watch the dive, and I watch everything. So it's just one of those things, you know what I mean? But I think they got a bit stupid thinking that was going to improve the ratings, and it didn't. So.
Like you said, but even like you said, like every 4 years it gets showcased. Like amateur boxing, like some people don't only watch amateur boxing for the Olympics. So then, like
Yeah.
they only watch it then. So to have pros in, it's not why people are watching anyway. People are there to watch. They want to watch the amateurs.
I think we've had a good run of it over the last couple of years. We winning medals and constantly winning medals, and it's it's a tribute to our own home coaches as well, not just the high performance coaches. People are buying into the fact that, like, this as a youngster, like Olympic champions that made when they start boxing, they're born into it and bred into it, and years of commitment and work, and that's the way it works, and that goes with our coaches as well, that they're giving them the right information, they're giving them the right facts, they're bringing them on trips around the countries and things like that, and they're getting them spars, and they're getting them this, that, and the other, and that's the way it works. And I believe we will have another Olympic champion pretty soon. I don't know if it'll be a boy or it'll be a girl, but I think what's coming up now in the next couple of years is even better than what we had, and I'm hoping I'm proven right in this. And I've been fortunate enough to become the first ever Olympic champion in boxing. I said I don't want to be the last. I know we have Katie Taylor there; she won the girls. I mean it as well with the boys. I don't want to be the last. I want another Olympic champion from boxing. I want another 10 before I go off. You know what I mean? Because we have the caliber, we have the guts, we have everything that we need to win Olympic Games. I showed you. We done it. I done it 28 years ago. Katie done it many years now for her. 8 years ago now for her. So the bottom line with that is we need to start, getting lads qualified. You asked the question about qualifications as well. I always feel that qualification is harder than actually the Olympic Games, believe it or not. Because all the pressure is getting there. And if you mess up or you slip up in any way, you're gone. And Kenneth Egan had a conversation with me only recently about him, 8, 10 times national champion, but never go to the Olympics. And he qualified, and he rang me and thanked me, because where I am in this room here, he was sitting over there. And I told him to close his eyes, and I said, visualize the fight now. I said, the fight's over, to qualify for the Olympics, the fight's over. And I said to him, you just lost. And he opened his eyes because he wanted the better results. And he says, That's mean I just lost. Imagine you just lost. Who cares if you got 10 national titles? You never become an Olympian. That's it. And lo and behold, he went and qualified in that Olympic qualifier. And he gave me a phone call back. He says, I said, close your eyes, mate, but I tell you what, I came out the other side. He said, just a good lad, I said, and qualified. And he went on a silver medal. So, it's one of those type of things, like it's crazy in its own way. But I think sometimes the qualifiers are harder than the Olympics, So, and that might sound crazy to you, but there's no pressure on you. There's no pressure on any of our boxers going in there to win a medal. And they want to win medals, don't get me wrong, but there's no pressure on them. Maybe there is over the last couple of years with us winning in Beijing and winning in London. We didn't do anything in Rio. It was a poor games for us, but I think we'll bounce back. And we're hoping Tokyo now will be 2021, and that this thing goes away and we can get back to normality. And the girls, as I said, hold a better chance, I think, of winning medals. And I'm not being bad to the boys, but I believe the caliber we have in the girls is really, really strong with the girls we have, and particularly with Kelly Harrington. She's world champion. You got Michaela Walsh, she's your Commonwealth champion. You got, some really good ones out there, and they're going to be knocking on the door. They want to become Olympians, these lot, So it's hopefully we get the qualifiers now back after Christmas, and Tokyo goes ahead in July in 2021, and we keep our tradition going. I want boxing to win medals. I want other sports to win medals as well. I'm Irish. I said I want everyone, try to win medals for Ireland. But I'm a realist as well. I know what they're up against, but I want boxing back on that pedestal because we got a bit of a slag in the last time because we didn't win. Someone said it was our worst Olympic Games. No, it wasn't. I'm sure we went to Olympic Games and we didn't even win a fight. You go back to the records. So we went to Seoul Olympics. You had Wayne McCullough on the team. You had Michael Carruth on the team. You had Joe Lawler on the team. You had you had Paul Fitzgerald on the team. You had Billy Walsh on the team. You had Kieran Joyce on the team. You put that team against any team in Irish history and we'd win. Right? And I'm not being bad here. We would win. And we won nothing. So we won a couple of fights. Nearly all of us won a fight each, but they're saying Rio was our worst Olympics. It wasn't. No. And what I'm saying is they won fights. Like, what's the name? Won a fight. Paddy Barnes won. Paddy didn't win one. What's his name from the north? Donnelly won a fight, won one or two fights, and then got beaten. Joe Ward was unfortunate to get two public warnings in the fight. Katie Taylor killed Joe Ward and didn't win. Right? Killed her.
Michael
Conlon was corrupt. It's just that's the horrible thing, and that's where the Russians come into it, because the Russians said the night before he's not going to win because they got the juice. So, and something has to be done about that, So Michael's fight was a tight fight, but when your man can't fight the next fight, it shows what he done to him as well, So and unfortunately, I still don't think he would have beat Ramirez from Cuba. He might have said, "Oh, let him get that's Mick," but I think he's too good. I think he has everybody's number, and he's after winning 2 Olympic Games in 1920. That's just showing off, isn't it? So with that, again, everybody can argue the fact, but I'm hoping obviously Kelly can qualify. We've got young Irvine. I'm not greedy. I think if we could get 6 boxers there, we could come back with medals. I'd kind of like 8, but 6 would be. I'd be happy enough at 6. And if we can get that numbers, I think we can come back with a medal or 2 again.
Yeah.
And we put boxing, amateur boxing, back on the pedestal where we belong. Number 1.
Yeah.
Sport.
I think even like when you think about when you're talking about Michael Conlon here, he even got to show when he fought Nikitin again in the professionals, he got to really show like the difference in class there. I know like it maybe make up for not winning the gold, but he got to show that he was the better fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were told the night before, like when we were looking at the fight of the Cuban or the Russian fight. I think he was fighting a Puerto Rican boxer, his first fight, and he never won that fight either. And we were kind of hoping to get the Russian because we felt the Russian was weaker, I think, than the Puerto Rican was. And then all of a sudden, we did get the Cube. We got the what we wanted. You know, we were in the cheerleaders in RTA, me, Paul, me and Bernard Dawn, and who else? I think Andy Lee was on the one as well. And we were saying, who do you hope to get us to Russian? Because the Puerto Rican is very good, and Puerto Rican knocked the ears off him and didn't get the fight. And then all of a sudden, the same thing happens the second fight again, and it's one of those things. But you know, what happened afterwards, you can't blame him, and you can, because he should have been disciplined enough as well. His father was behind him as well, so he should have just, here, you'll do an interview, 10 minutes time, let us cool down, go into the dressing room and kick the crap out of you there or anything that's in the dressing room, you know, and provided it's not any of your other teammates, you know, and cool yourself down and then go do your interview. We should not have done that interview straight after that fight, as well as Katie. She should have as well, you know. Because if I was a coach there, I would have just moved them on. We would be back in 5 minutes, you know. I'm going to kick a wall in, you know, so do something, you know. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. But as I said, people saying it's our worst Olympics, talking crap, you know. We won fights, so.
Yeah. I think even like 2004, the Olympics, how many boxers were sent in then? Like, was Andy Lee the only boxer who went?
I think Andy, yeah. And did he win one fight? Yeah. Or did he win a fight? Michael Roach went in 2000, did he? To Sydney. Was that Sydney? Michael Roach was the only one that qualified from Cork. Don't think he won a fight. And people are coming on and see what it is as well. People have opinions. We live in this world. Me and you are talking to one another in this new world of ours. You know what I mean? But you know, people who don't know the game of boxing, you know, think they become experts because they watch boxing. You know, and unfortunately, with Katie's fight was, I had her winning 3 to 4 rounds, and just about, they even gave a draw to one that they said she lost. You know, Michael Conlon, as you say, was hijacked. Joe Ward was hijacked. Joe Ward got 2 public warnings. The public warnings are really only given out to really novice boxers. You know what I mean? Because they don't know the rules and they don't know, they're not experienced enough, you know, for holding and things like that. But they get 2 public warnings in the Olympic Games, you know. And it's like Man United again in Liverpool. If the referee gives a penalty to Liverpool, you're more likely to give one to Man United as well. And that's what public warnings are like as well. It was a horrible, horrible fight. I think he boxed a Colombian there. I can't remember. Joe Warsaw. And, you know, that was just awkward. But he deserved as much public warnings as Joe did. And Joe gets 2 public warnings in the Olympic Games. Crazy, you know. Absolutely crazy, you know. But again, you just have to live with it and get on with it. We were told the night before Conor was not going to win the fight from a Russian source, you know. So they got to the judges. And they do. That's what they do. And they should be turfed out of amateur boxing.
Yeah. That's what, like, would you say then that the goal is to have an Olympic champion out of Drimnagh, to train an Olympic champion yourself?
That would be my goal. Like my father has 1. I said, not try to beat you. Yeah, I'm gonna get 2. That's me. I'm competitive. I still am. Yeah. We're doing very well at the moment. We last year we won the Club of the Year award with 16 national titles. That's in all grades. So we're you know, we've got a great little thing going in the club as well. We've a lot of coaches, 11 coaches. This is all on voluntary basis. You know, we brought it back. We brought it back the way we used to be. Like, we train hard and we fight easy. You know, but there's 2 kids in particular there, 3 kids, 4 I'm gonna call, that will be probably potential Olympic gold medalists. And I'm not messing with you. And it's gonna be 2 of them are brothers. You got Martin and Jamie Collins, the 2 traveller lads. Okay. You've got a young lad called Aaron Keogh. His nickname is Costa Keogh. Unreal. But the one that you really have to is Paul Griffin's nephew. His name is Kai Griffin. And Kai is the best juvenile I've ever seen. Ever. And if he continues the way he's going, he's going to get that medal that his uncle didn't in the Olympic Games. You know, he's going to be that good. You know, and he is that good. You know, he's absolutely sublime. I've never seen anybody like him. You know, and he trains hard. He's not a cheat. He works hard, and his father is coaching the club as well in Drimnagh. So those four names from Drimnagh would be my hopeful. You know, again, we have a lot of good girls as well in the club as well. So you're hoping they'll advance as well. But listen, if I can get one or two of them to the Olympic Games, would be great for us again, and a great honour for the club. And hope we could add to the medal tally. And obviously the numbers that have represented Drimnagh at Olympic Games. We've had 3 boxers now qualified for the Olympic Games: Paul Griffin, Philip Sutcliffe, and myself. You know, so there's not too many can say that they had 3 different boxers from going to Olympic Games. You know, Mick Dowling was as well. Mick came to Dublin or came to Drimnagh at a later stage, so we don't really count him as a Drimnagh boxer in the Olympic Games because he boxed for another club, and then he came to us. You know, so but. Yeah, if we can get any of those 4, and that's just if the Olympic Games are still going on. You know, we just don't know where we're going to be now in the next 20 years, do we? So it's going to be one of those things.
Yeah, especially with the as you said, the Russians and the corruption isn't gotten rid of.
Yeah, and it doesn't help, and that doesn't just even apply to boxing. I'm sure all other sports hate them. You know, in that regard. You know, I know hate is a horrible word, and I don't like using that word. But you know. We went to training camp in Germany in 1992. There's a place called Carruth, okay? And this college team from Russia came in. And because we had all Adidas tops and like they were still kind of in that communist era, you know? And they wanted the Adidas top t-shirts and they were offering us anabolic steroids for it. This is a college team. And Paul Griffin took a sample of it. Of the one, didn't put it into him. He took it and brought it home, and we gave it to the lab when we came home, and it was a full anabolic steroid. And this was a college team from Russia. So could you imagine what the rest of them were on? You know what I mean? So, and that'll tell you exactly what they are. You know, cheats.
Yeah, so, that was back then. Like it's not like science is on. And
T-shirt. He wanted a T-shirt, an Adidas T-shirt. And he gave us an anabolic steroid, unbelievable. I got home and got tested in Blackrock Clinic, and it was a full anabolic steroid. So, steroids don't do anything to boxers because what happens with anabolic steroid gets your heart rate up. We do 3 minutes fighting, and then all of a sudden we're brought back to a corner and we bring it all back down. And then we go again, and we bring it back down again, and then we go again. So it wouldn't help us. It doesn't help you avoid a punch any quicker. It doesn't help you when you get one on the chin that you can take it better. You know what I mean? So you never see boxers fail in drug tests, really. But this was a black team from Russia somewhere. You know what I mean? But that'll show you, doesn't it? That was back in 1992.
Yeah, I suppose you have the benefit with the anabolic. You have the benefit of it during your training camp. That obviously you helps you recover. You can train harder for longer, all this sort of stuff. So I suppose it has a benefit there, but maybe not too much in the ring.
We didn't use it because we were in a great training facility there in Germany, and it's not our part. It's not in our nature to cheat. You know, the only way you cheat in boxing is you don't train. That's the only cheating you do in boxing. You know, so if you don't train, you're gonna get caught out. You know, and that's the bottom line. So.
Yeah. So just one more question before we kind of finish up is if you had to pick a favorite fighter of all time, who would you pick?
To fight or to be the favorite fighter? Yeah. My favorite fighter is in the professional is Marvin Hagler. Right? I love him. Marvin Hagler. I love his style. I love that he was a southpaw. I love the, he beat Sugar Ray, and I don't care what anybody says, right? Won that fight.
I think so too. I
watched it 3 times without coverage, and that was hard to do. Hagler to me was always the great boxer. I loved Ray Leonard. He was a great fighter. Amateur wise, probably my favorite amateur boxer would have been it's hard when it was to go amateur. Cubans had so many great ones, I'm not going to give it to them, because they have too many. Paul Griffin Paul Griffin was one of my best I've ever seen as an amateur. You know, technical wise, skill wise, hit like a welterweight as a featherweight. You know, got unlucky in his Olympic Games in '92, but Griff was unbelievable as a southpaw, as a technical boxer. You know, like nobody beat him. He won the European Championships when he was 19 years old. You know, in Sweden against the Russian. You know, so Griff was one of my favorite fighters. And I could say him. You can name all the big names out there if you wanted, but Hagler to me loved him, absolutely loved him. And when he beat Minter in London, they didn't give him that time to celebrate. They threw bottles at him and everything else, and you know, because they said he was hitting them with the head and all that. That's what happens in boxing. Get over it, you know. So, but Hagler to me was the best of all. I met Roberto Duran a few years ago, you know, and he came over to me and shook hands with me, you know, what's going on here, you know, and he said, Barcelona, and I said, yeah. Hernandez, I said, yeah, good fight. He says to me, you know, holy moly, Roberto Duran says, saying that to me, you know, and I said, I love Hagler. He said, we all love Hagler. He says, so that was it, great fighter.
Oh, yeah, Hagler's definitely. I've watched a good lot of his fights back. He's one of my favorites. Like I said, yeah, southpaw, tough as nails. The fight with the fight with Hearns, unbelievable. And so, yeah,
it's amazing. It was 8 minutes amazing, wasn't it? It was described as but I fought them all. When you look at that era, that era of what they had there, you had Ray Leonard, you had Thomas Lee Wood, you had Roberto Duran, you had Hagler, you had the Beast McGarvey. You know, my God, the 5 of them. Imagine having that now in this day and age. You know what money you pay to watch them. You know, it was phenomenal. And Hagler had to be the best of the 5 of them. You know, Leonard, okay, got the comeuppance and got the win, but nah, I think without question, Hagler was the best of the 5 of them.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll leave it there. It's thanks a million for coming on. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed hearing the stories, and it's been great.
Do a lot of editing there now. Make sure my hair is all done right.
I'll try. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Hopefully, I'll get back in the gym fairly soon. I can get back to normal. And
please, absolutely, and stay safe. Okay.
You too. All the best.
Thanks, Jeremy. All the best. Take care.